XRP holders, I got some bad news for you. And no, I'm not talking about the price action. There's something much bigger happening behind XRP. We're going to talk about it. We're going to be addressing it. But by the end of this video, you're going to be aware that although, yes, it is bad news, I don't think that it's going to affect XRP at all this cycle. So sit back, relax. Welcome to the channel, everyone. My name is Nick. For those that are new to the channel, hopefully by the end of this video, you do become subscribers. So let's first and foremost, let's actually start off with the price action, because we are down about almost 5%. Today is a significant day for finance, so I wouldn't be surprised if we did see a little bit lower price action, because if we actually look at the XRP chart right now, we are rejecting off of that upper trend line, which is to be expected. We have been rejecting off of this since we lost it back in January, towards the end of January, and as you guys can see, it's been pretty hard to actually break out of this. Now once we do, the consolidation that we've been dealing with, I do think is going to be, I think everyone's going to realize that this consolidation is just one long base before we launch into space. So right now, I'm really kind of just focused on XRP maintaining that lower trend line and creating higher lows still. So my main target here is if we do go down as low as it, about like $2.07, maybe even $2.10. We have to watch with how stocks open today. Obviously, I'm recording this ahead of time before stocks open. But I do think that, price action right now is just going to be a little bit boring. And that's kind of a part of the bad news, right? Is that we do have to wait a little bit more before we see, very bullish price action, which for those out there that are, wondering how long it's going to take for XRP to actually pump, don't worry, by the end of this video, you'll also know the answer to that. But yeah, I could easily come on here and say, hey guys, in the next 24 hours, XRP is going to make a huge move, but that's just simply not it. We're waiting for a few indicators to actually tell us when altcoins are going to move, and you'll know what those indicators actually are by the end of this video. But over here, we did get a new update from Jack McDonald, who is the CEO of Standard Custody and also SVP of stablecoins at Ripple. We do have here a big update regarding the March monthly independent attestation for RLUSD. It's now live. RLUSD is available on new exchanges, including Kraken FX. And they've also integrated RLUSD into Ripple payments for select customers and announced the acquisition of Hidden Road, which will use RLUSD as collateral for its clients, creating a critical bridge between crypto and traditional finance. RLUSD is being used in DeFi liquidity pools such as Aave and also Curve Finance. And here we have all of the reports if you guys did really want to, dive on into them. Again, this is just showing us how transparent Ripple is around RLUSD. And we're still waiting on Tether to do something like this. Why hasn't Tether given us a full-on breakdown of their reserves? Why haven't they been audited? We don't know. But here we have the total circulating RLUSD and the reserve funds. Now, this is as of 4/24. And what's interesting about this is if we look at the balance, 294 million. Now, I know that rwa.xyz has been recently broken. If you try to open RLUSD on their website, it just takes you to the market overview. So I don't know what's up with that. I hope that they fix it very soon. But regardless, if we actually look at Ripple USD here, we could see 344 million, which is a pretty significant jump from the 294 million as of April 24th. But also we could see how much is on Ethereum and even the XRP ledger. And DeFi Llama is also not up to date. They have about 317 million here. Would like to see this more updated, but regardless of that, it just kind of shows you how quick RLUSD is growing, which we'd love to see. Now, let's talk about the bad news, right? So number one, outside of just price action alone, we really look at the ETFs. So recently we know that 3 XRP futures ETFs are approved. And we've been waiting for the spot ETF because this is the problem, okay? These futures ETFs, and even with like the CME group announcement, that's not going to affect XRP. It's not going to affect the volume behind XRP or the demand around XRP. This is why everyone hates the futures ETFs. Now, one thing that I have stated is that futures ETFs typically lead to spot ETFs being approved. But the issue here is, how long do we have to wait? Well, we just got a big update regarding the fact that we got a big delay. And I'm sure that by now you guys probably do know this, but the SEC Gov has delayed making a decision on Franklin Templeton's XRP Spot ETF until June 17th. And we could actually see on the 29th, we got this. Yeah, it's going to be delayed. We have here that it's going to be, this is basically a section 19B2 of the act provides that within 45 days of the publication of notice of the filing of a proposed rule change, or within such longer period up to 90 days as the commission may designate, if it finds such long or longer period to be appropriate and publishes its reasons for so finding, or as to which the self-regulatory organization consents, the commission shall either approve the proposed rule change, disapprove the proposed rule change, or institute proceedings to determine whether the proposed rule change should be disapproved. The 45th day after publication of the notice for this proposed rule change is May 3rd of this year. The commission is extending this 45-day time period, though. So they're extending it by 45 days, which is, of course, June 17th. And everyone's kind of upset about this because they're like, all right, well, that means that we're not getting an ETF until, who knows when. It could be June, or they could even do another 45-day pause on this. And I want you guys to understand that we don't technically have to wait this entire time period out. Like, I don't think that it's going to take as long as most people actually anticipate for us to get ETFs live trading around XRP. And I'm talking about spot ETFs. For an example, I recently read that somebody was saying October of this year is when they're actually going to approve this. I think that it happens a lot sooner than, what most are anticipating. And we even have over here some more detail after speaking with ETF Guru. And by the way, for those that actually don't know about James, he is one that was really kind of right on around the Bitcoin ETF. So this is somebody that we really kind of look at. And we can't, fully trust his judgment 100%, but it's somebody who's been very, on the ball and active around ETFs. So he knows a couple things. But we have these dates are all intermediate, and we'll likely see final decisions on a lot of the crypto ETPs in quarter 4. For the XRP Spot ETF, James is eyeing mid-October, which is exactly why everyone's, anticipating October. Around the 18th as a final decision deadline. It's possible the SEC won't take all the time to make its decision, but a lot will hinge on how actively they engage on the applications. Now, yeah, that's something that's very important here, right? Is how active is the SEC going to be around these ETFs? We don't know. Number one, we know that Paul Atkins has a lot to undo. Not a lot to do, but undo because of the previous admin. Now, as we really think about that, are ETFs a priority for them? I don't necessarily believe so, but if the SEC is going to be this, pro-crypto regulatory agency, then they should start to get the ball rolling on ETFs. And I don't think that it requires that much, intensive work to really kind of look at these ETFs and say, all right, yeah, no, these are good. Let's pass them through. I could be wrong, obviously, but I still think that a lot of these ETFs get approved a lot quicker than most assume. I remember when the Bitcoin ETFs, started to get talked about, a lot of people were saying, oh, it's going to take until the middle of, 2024 or the summer of 2024. And all of a sudden, guess what? BlackRock filed. And then almost immediately after that, I think it was maybe a month, right? They got approved. They were trading live. And it was like almost all at once. And we could already see what, the ETFs did for Bitcoin. Now, a lot of people bring up the fact that ETFs did absolutely nothing for Ethereum. And, you could argue that, sure. I think that the Ethereum ETFs are going to be huge when we start to see Ethereum gain momentum again, which, yes, I do think that does happen. And the same can be said about XRP, right? I think that once XRP starts to wake up, and if we do have the ETFs fully approved by that point, then they could be very, very, successful. But we'll have to watch, wait, and see. Now, is this going to impact XRP in a very significant way? I don't believe so, right? These ETFs, let's just be honest here, XRP doesn't need an ETF. Everyone is looking for some big catalyst because, everyone's tired of just waiting and waiting and waiting. So they're looking at everything and they're trying to grasp onto something to make their bags pump. One thing that we've been hearing over the last couple weeks, and technically the last couple of months, is alt season, right? When is alt season going to happen? Quinton recently put out a great post on the 22nd, which was the biggest gap between Bitcoin and altcoins ever. And if we actually look at this, this typically shows us when we start to see, alt season brewing behind the scenes. This is showing us that altcoins still have a lot of catching up to do. And when they do start to catch up, and when we start to see that next big impulsive move, I do believe that altcoins are going to outperform Bitcoin in a huge way. Most already have, XRP included. I do think that we will see a big drop on Bitcoin dominance. Now, the question is when? And a lot of people are starting to, try to predict this. For an example, we have over here, alt season starts in 2 days. Is this just engagement, farming? Probably, right? But they're talking about, it starting on May 1st. Over here we have, historically, this is where alt season begins. Same pattern, same timing. Altcoins are lining up for a run. Just a little more patience and we print. And then also Ash is also saying altcoin season is very close, followed by alt season 2.0 will happen in 2025. QE and rate cuts by Q3, Q4, multiple altcoin ETFs approval, Bitcoin dominance peak similar to 2021, regulatory clarity around altcoins, risk on environment due to rising global liquidity. Bookmark this post and we will visit it back in Q4 of 2025. Now, one thing that I will take from this post from Ash is the fact that, yeah, we do have multiple altcoin ETFs possibly being approved around Q4. Even if we have to wait until XRP gets the ETF approved by Q4, think about what that does for Bitcoin dominance, right? And by the way, I do think that, Bitcoin dominance starts to really kind of drop beforehand. I actually have a chart over here and I'll explain it here in a second. But, ETFs around altcoins could definitely impact the way that we see altcoins perform, especially against Bitcoin. And it could impact Bitcoin dominance and it could actually start alt season. What I would find extremely crazy is if we got XRP ETFs fully approved. Imagine if XRP leads the altcoin market instead of Ethereum. That's very possible. It's something that I've been thinking about, and also really kind of, I would say, planning around, because my XRP bags are packed heavy. I do think that XRP does flip Ethereum this cycle, so it would make a lot of sense. But again, we can't put too much confidence on that prediction. But one thing is very clear here is that it's not happening in 2 days. It's not happening, in 24 hours. It's probably going to be happening in the third quarter of this year. If we're really thinking about alt season, this is when it happens, in my opinion, around July 1st of this year. And the reason why I say that is because of the time frame around alt season starting back in 2020 and 2021. It took 1,096 days for Bitcoin dominance to top out officially. We are right on the ball here from the point where we bottomed to where we will potentially top. And I don't think that we actually have that much more to go on Bitcoin dominance. So we might actually start this, roughly around like the end of June into July. We might start to just kind of trend a little, or consolidate a little bit against this upper trend line and then sell off in a big way. But you can very, very well clearly see that the overall chart setup here is very similar back to 2019 into 2020 and 2021. We have this nice little red candle here, just like we had it back here in January of 2019. And then we went on a massive tear. The only thing that we actually don't have is this little weakness here. And again, it's different because we do have, of course, the ETFs around Bitcoin. We have a lot more focus put on Bitcoin, so it makes sense that we don't actually initially sell off into the top for Bitcoin dominance. But, I do think that around like July is the perfect time for the market to wake up, because, most people actually go away in May and they don't really come back until about roughly the end of August into September. So, I'm going to be watching this chart for any significant impulses or any, major price action to form. I'll keep the Discord updated, obviously, but, overall, I don't think that these, bad news updates around XRP ETFs and, did you just see what happened around the SEC and this? I don't think that's going to impact XRP that big. Even if we don't get ETFs, say for so, there's no ETFs at all for XRP this year. All right, let's just say that. Do I think that that impacts XRP's performance? No, I don't believe so. I still think XRP is going to break out in a huge way. I still think that's going to new all-time highs, and I still think that it has the potential to hit $10+ this cycle and potentially even higher. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on. If you guys want more free content, you guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.